This is your friend Phil, PMP exam coach, CAPM exam coach, trying to get you on the same page as me as to what you need to do to succeed on your PMP exam. What do you need to do to succeed on your PMP exam? A variety of things. I'll keep it brief. You need to be ready for the long haul. You need to be ready to take that energy you've got and put it to good use by studying, by becoming a researcher, someone who can research the PMBOK guide, someone who can research subject matter and come up with sensible conclusions as to how to start a project, how to initiate a project, how to take a project from being an idea on a piece of paper to having something tangible. You need to be able to fill in the gaps of everything that you do from the 0 point all the way to the finish. That is really what you need to be thinking about as a PMP to be. The big secret to success is nothing other than being extremely determined, being extremely rugged, because you'll be thrown all over the carriage, right? You have to be rugged. You have to be dogged. You have to, some people say, I'm fed up of this, Phil, I've lost my momentum. You can't afford to be fed up. You have to stay in the game. As with anything in life, it doesn't come without the right amount of sacrifice. You have to put in the time and the effort. I know I've said it before, but I'm saying it again because it's so important. You have to stay focused. Sometimes it has to go beyond, I want a new job. It has to go beyond that. It has to go into the realm of you being determined to succeed and to complete anything that you started. So the key tip for PMP exam success is never, ever, ever, ever give up. Never give up. Within the past 2 years, I'll give you a quick statistic, I have helped various project managers who have failed the PMP exam once pass the exam. I have also helped project managers who have failed the PMP exam not once but twice pass the PMP exam. I have also helped PMs who have not failed the exam once or twice but 3 times. Read my lips. 3 times. Fail the exam 3 times. 3 times. 3 times. And pick themselves up and say, I am not going to stay on the ground. I am going to get up and I'm going to pass the exam on my 4th try. Can you imagine that? Now, a lot of these people tend to find my materials on Amazon or on the web somehow, or they may even be listening to me on YouTube. They're like, well, who's this guy? Let's check him out. Let's see if he can actually help me out. I've had 2 students like that, and they have both passed the PMP exam after trying it 3 times, trying it on their own and using other solutions, pick up our solution, and on the 4th try, pass the exam. One of such students decided that instead of taking it in quick succession, he was going to give himself a little bit of time to prepare. So he took almost 8 months for his 4th try, but he put everything into it. Why am I telling you these stories? I'm trying to get you to understand you've not been rugged and dogged enough. You have to be more rugged and dogged. You've not failed the exam yet. Maybe you failed it once. So what? Maybe twice. So what? 3 times. Who cares? You're going to ace it on the 4th try. If only you do the right thing. If only you're dogged and rugged. And that's why I'm here today to tell you it's possible. It's doable. You can pass it on your 1st try. If you've never taken the exam and you're looking at taking it, you can pass it. You can pass it. Don't worry. Don't worry about what people tell you. People may say your aptitude and your intellect is not up to PMP level. It's the biggest lie you could ever take. Don't take it. You can pass the exam. I don't care whether it's the PMP or the CAPM, whatever exam you're looking at doing, you can pass it. But you have to put in the time and the effort. Now, specific to the PMP exam, one of the biggest reasons why people fail this exam, do you know what it is? The biggest reason is they don't dig into the detail. You have to dig into the detail. You have to dig deep into the detail. This exam, I call it a beast. Why do I call it a beast? There is so much information embedded in the content. So much information. But let's break it down. You might have seen the PMBOK guide before. Chapter 1 is important. Is it a threat? Not by any stretch to me. I don't find that to be a threat. It's very easy. What is project management? It's the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project endeavors, project activities, to come out with a final product, service, or result. What is a program? It's a collection of interrelated projects managed in a coordinated way to give you benefits and control that wouldn't have been available by managing them individually. What's a portfolio? A portfolio is a collection of projects, programs, and other work that are managed in a particular way to achieve a company's strategic business objectives. So you're looking at the high-level interrelation of projects, programs, other work that may just be isolated, but all of these form the portfolio. Yes, you know that. Chapter 1 isn't a threat. How about Chapter 2? By the time we start going into organization type, some people who are not used to digging into the details, they get lost. You need to be aware of Chapter 2. Spend some time on it. Understand what a matrix organization really is and what the advantages of it are. Understand what a weak matrix is, what a strong matrix is, and what a balanced matrix is. Understand what phases are, the phase-to-phase relationships. Understand the sequential, the overlapping, and iterative. Understand those. Understand the differences between projects and operations, and you'll be on your merry way. But of course, we also need to talk about something else. You know what we need to talk about? I'm not talking about communications just yet. Phone ringing. Not communications. I need to talk about the understanding of the relationships between projects and operations. Really understand that relationship. If you can, very good. It's an extremely important one to understand. How do projects and operations interrelate? What are the differences? What are the similarities? What are the differences? And so on. That is very important. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to turn this phone off so I'm not disturbed any further. Very important thing we're doing here. Okay, so when you think about what you need to understand in Chapter 2, we've talked about projects, operations, but the final thing really is organizational process assets. Organizational process assets is very important. Now we've talked about Chapter 1 and 2, moving on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, people overlook. Like, oh yeah, 42 processes. Oh, it's all about page 43. No, it's not. No, it's not. Chapter 3 is not just all about page 43. Chapter 3 is all about understanding how different processes interrelate. Understanding if you have an output from a process in initiating, you are likely going to use the output somewhere else in initiating. For example, your project charter in initiating, it's an output, but you use it in identifying stakeholders. That's important, very important. Understanding what I get from here, I can use somewhere else in the same process group. That's what Chapter 3 is all about. Let me just be honest. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Going over to planning, understanding that, okay, I'm going to use my project charter, I'm going to use my stakeholder register that I got from initiating in planning. And I'm going to have that trickle-down effect of things that I get out of one process used in another process, get something out of that process, use it somewhere else within the same. Don't move away from Chapter 3. Don't. Spend time. Spend time on chapter 3. How about taking out a notepad and really writing out the outputs that you've heard from one process and drawing arrows to where those outputs become an input to somewhere else within a process group? It is so important. I cannot overstate it. This is where you begin to really understand inputs and outputs. Now, chapter 3 is void of tools and techniques. Not sure if you've noticed, but it's void of tools and techniques. They're leaving the bad boys for last. Chapters 4 to 12 will contain all the tools and techniques you need to talk about. But here in chapter 3, we're really narrowing it down, trying to get you to understand inputs coming from a particular process and those becoming, or outputs I should say, from one process being used as inputs in another process. That's what we're really after. Okay? Very important to understand, extremely important. Now, when you have moved from initiating to planning and you've gone to executing, where you've got the 8 very important processes in executing, and you understand the interrelationship, you really understand acquire project team, develop project team, manage project team, you can see your outputs becoming inputs in other places, or you can see a repetition, then you're talking. Bear in mind, you've not left chapter 3 yet. Chapter 3 is full of information that people miss, and because they miss the information in chapter 3, it sets them up for being on a treadmill of failure. Because if you don't leave chapter 3 till you fully understand that you get outputs from one place and they become inputs somewhere else, if you can understand that, you're on a good foot. If you cannot, then you're going into a dark hole down the road. So spend a lot of time, spend a lot of focus, write notes regarding chapter 3. It is so important. Chapter 3 is one of the biggest foundation stones for passing the PMP exam, for understanding what's coming ahead. How about monitoring and controlling? How about identifying those similar outputs? You see why you need to spend time? Because you can very easily identify similar outputs from processes in monitoring and controlling. And without sweat, no, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. That only comes from monitoring and controlling processes. And that's why it's used in whichever place it's used, or that's why it comes from whichever place it comes. Just understanding the dynamics. Moving into closing, understanding for fact what you use in closing, what you get from closing, understanding organizational process assets updates come from processes in closing, understanding why, understanding what is being presented in the PMBOK guide in chapter 3. If you can cross that hurdle and really nail down mastery of the process groups and the interrelationships of processes within process groups, you are on a good footing. If you are not able to do that, big problem. Go back to chapter 3, read it, let it marinate, understand it. We're talking about inputs and outputs. We're not talking about tools and techniques just yet. Okay?